Definitely not a good company.
Let's see. Welcome everyone. We are just setting things up right now. We're gonna get started in about 3 minutes to give folks a chance. Yeah, let's give folks until 6:05. It looks like we have more attendees joining. And in the meantime, I'm going to share my screen for the PowerPoint slides. We'll give folks 1 more minute. Welcome everyone who is waiting on the workshop at this point. We're gonna give folks 1 more minute and we're gonna get started. Thank you for your patience.
No, Michael, we can't hear you.
Oh, can we? Let me see if I can find. Hey, Michael, can you try talking right now? I just unmuted you. Can you see if that worked?
Hi, yeah, can you guys
Great.
hear me?
Okay, perfect.
Okay,
Okay,
good.
wonderful. Thank
All
you. I'm gonna leave you unmuted for.
Yeah, sorry, I'm sorry, I just went through the regular channel, not
Yeah,
going.
no, you're all good. You're
Okay,
all
cool,
good.
thank you.
Yeah,
I'm just
thank
gonna be
you.
silent anyway.
Okay.
All right, cool, thanks,
Well,
sorry.
now I know how to mute you if you do become a little too rowdy, so.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you, Angela.
All right, we are at 6:06. We want to respect everybody's time. Thank you so much, everyone, for being present today for our second community workshop for the Vermont Manchester development. My name is Angela LeBou. I'm the Chief Operations Officer at Coalition for Responsible Community Development. And our wonderful, very awesome development partners are all here. They'll be introducing themselves throughout the workshop as they'll be presenting and leading different discussions. So for folks who are new to our workshops, the goals of these workshops, and there are a series of 4. We have two main goals. The first is to inform stakeholders with balanced, easy to understand information to share the purpose of the development, meet the development team, understand the timelines, and share project updates. Our second goal for these workshops are to really build understanding of concerns and aspirations of stakeholders to inform project decisions. So today we are focused on local hire. Our first workshop was focused on the overall design of the project. What is this development going to include? Today is local hire. We have a third one happening in 3 weeks that'll be focused on retail and commercial space. And then the fourth one, 3 weeks after that, will be focused on affordable housing. So we have from 6 to 8 p.m. today. We might, have a little bit more time. And so today I just a few housekeeping notes. So we have Louis McNeil and Lisa Winkle monitoring the Q&A box as well as the chat box. Please feel free throughout the workshop to enter in any questions. The development team is more than welcome, and they have been, directly answering questions in the chat and Q&A boxes as well. So we'll do our best to try not to kind of repeat questions if they've already been answered in those spaces. We are posting materials and FAQs on the on our project website. Louis, can you drop that website into the chat box? But it is vmtpp.com. And so we're getting all those materials up. Do have afford us a little bit of patience as we kind of work through, because we want to make sure that even the like different notes and things like that are accurate. And so from a process perspective, you all should know that like Louis reviews each of the recordings and then kind of goes through to make sure that we are accurately posting information in the FAQ. So, but those materials are being posted there. So to get us started, we want to get a sense of who's in the room today. In a moment, you're going to see 2 polls just to let us know, who's on the call. Let us know if you're a resident, if you're a business owner, maybe you're part of a local nonprofit. We also would love to know kind of what the age groups are that we have in the room. And so please also fill that out. We'll give folks just 10 more seconds to fill out the poll, and then we'll share the results so folks know who's joining today. And so we're really excited that this is our second workshop, and it already looks like we have a few more folks than our first workshop. So thank you everyone for being present today. Okay, so I'm gonna give, let's see, 5 more seconds, and then I'm gonna end the poll and share the results. Okay. So out of 67% of folks who voted, 70%, we can see that, oh, interesting. Today we have a little bit more folks a few more folks from different nonprofits on the line. But we still have, after that, a good number of residents and local business owners. Awesome. And as far as age group, here's what we've got going on here. So we can see that most folks are in this 26 to 45 age group, followed by 46 to 61. And I'm so happy that we have some young folks on the line today as well, 18 to 25. So thank you all for joining the workshop today, and we are so excited to hear your voices through these discussions. I'm going to stop sharing these results. Close that. Okay, so great. So to get us started, we're going to be talking about what local hire is, we want to be very clear also about kind of what the processes are that we have associated with this development. So we're going to be talking about goals and timelines. Claudia and Nilura is here to talk about the school development, and Alejandro's here, and Claudia is here to talk about the mixed use development. We'll talk about some of the strategies to support local hire. I hope that folks who joined the first workshop will see some of their feedback in these strategies. We took a lot of that to heart, of course, and so I hope you'll see that. And then we'll also be talking about additional, kind of hearing your thoughts on those. What else can we do? And before kind of announcements and next steps. So we want to be really clear about, maybe set a little bit of staging, a little bit of framing today of what is local hire. And so when we say local hire, we're talking about processes that create hiring preferences for folks who live in specific geographic areas. And so this can be as large as a city or county, or it can be as small as a specific group of zip codes to target specific neighborhoods. Throughout the presentations today and throughout the discussions, we're going to do our best to spell out acronyms, but please throw in any questions about definitions into the chat box, and we'll be sure to answer those kind of live so that that information is shared right away. But as all of our presenters today will be very mindful to try to spell those out as we go along. So I did mention that there are two separate and distinct local hire processes that are happening for the full development. One is for the seed school, and one is for the mixed use development. We're going to be talking about both today. As I mentioned, Nilura Bell is going to be sharing seeds process and progress, which is happening now. Alejandro and Claudia will be sharing the process for the mixed use development. So this is the affordable housing, retail, commercial spaces. That piece and that local hire piece is about a year away. So we want to be very clear that there's two very different processes happening here that have two different timelines. So just to kind of make sure folks know on the front end that those are some of the timelines we're working with. So to keep that in mind throughout these presentations. There was interest during the August 26th workshop in LA Metro's process. As folks may remember, if you were on the last call, that there is going to be the first of its kind. LA Metro will be having a training and innovation center on the site, which is really exciting. There was a lot of interest in kind of what the career pathing opportunities were going to be with LA Metro and things like that. However, that process is still 2 to 3 years away. And so we're not going to focus on that process today because it's still really early in that process. We want to be able to focus on those things that are at a much closer timeline. So the workforce development framework to support Metro's Training and Innovation Center hasn't yet been solidified at this time because it is it's further down the line. Like I mentioned, it's at least 2 to 3 years away. However, Metro is committed to collaborating with our community partners. They're part of the Vermont Manchester Community Advisory Council, and they'll be collaborating. They're committed to collaborating to share the elements of the center and best fit the needs of the South Los Angeles communities. As we get more information about the workforce development details related to the center, the team will definitely be sure to circle back with the community groups to share and seek input. It's just further down the line. And I believe we have Maria and Michael from LA Metro on the line who are available to answer any questions, any clarifying questions that folks might have at this time. And I just want to open the floor to them if they'd like to share any other comments before we move on to the next part of the agenda. So Maria and Michael, did you want to share anything?
Yeah, thank you, Angela, for having us. And just as you mentioned, we're a couple of years ahead from really kind of developing and sinking our teeth into what this Training and Innovation Center will be and how it will impact the community of South Los Angeles. I've invited Michael Flores, who is a partner of ours in the Department of Equal Opportunity Development for Metro. And so we're just here to field questions. We're going to stick around for the first part of the call. We'll be looking at the chat as well. If there's anything that we're not able to answer, we'll definitely circle back with Louis to follow up and answer those questions. Michael, do you have anything to add?
Actually, no. Thank you, Maria. Thank you, Angela. For the most part, we are here to be of service, hopefully to be able to answer some questions that pertains to certain processes that we have. Bear in mind that Metro has a project labor agreement that has to be defined yet if whether that will be applicable on this project or not. Therefore, it's still at the very preliminary stage, and I just wanted to be clear on that matter. But at the same token, there are some movement and activities happening behind the scene to be able to support the local hire initiative that the developer is more than willing to actually spearhead and take on.
Thank you, Angela.
Thank
Thank you
you.
both, Maria and Michael. We appreciate your ongoing partnership through this process. So we're gonna keep moving forward. You know, one of the issues that came up during the first community workshop that we were hearing, you know, is just really what is local hire going to look like, and what are those project labor agreements going to look like, and how can we make sure that local folks can be local residents can really be the first to be considered for different jobs and opportunities. So, you know, I mentioned earlier that the school and the mixed use development projects are on two different timelines when it comes to local hire. However, we did want to make sure that as the different local hire agreements are being developed, that we are all on the same page as to kind of what we're hearing from the community and what we as a development team are also committing to when it comes to local hire. So as a development team, we came up with 5 local hire values. These are values that the development team partners are committed to. These are the values that will guide the local hire goals, benchmarks, and overall approach for the recruitment of positions and such during the construction and operation of the projects. And so we are, you know, while some of, especially on the mixed use development side, there's a lot that hasn't yet been fully fleshed out. We're just, you know, ahead of the game a little bit on that. We're not quite there yet, I mean. But these are our 5 values. So first and foremost, whatever those requirements end up being, we're committed to meaningfully and materially doing better than the minimum local hire requirements. We are going to recruit and prioritize local Black and Brown owned subcontractors. We're committed to recruiting and prioritizing local Black and Brown residents for open positions throughout the project construction and operation. We're committing to participating in the online jobs and subs interest list, which was a strategy that was an idea from the first workshop, and Claudia is going to talk more about that later on, but we're committing to participating in that by sharing job types, timing, and other key information to support coordination. And finally, we're committed to following up with candidates and subs on that interest list for timely recruitment to different opportunities. So I want to pause right there for just a moment and see if any of our development team partners would like to add anything else to or any additional reflections on these values. Maybe we're all good. Okay. I'm looking, it's helpful to see people's faces because then I could just see like, oh yeah, we're good. Okay, cool. Wonderful. So, great. So we're gonna be moving to the next part of our agenda. So up next we have, we're gonna be focusing on the actual local hire goals and timelines. Laura Bell with XED is gonna be up first. I'm gonna stop sharing my screen, and as she kind of pulls hers up, I just want to kind of add that that I think, you know, we're really excited to have even these goals, these shared goals and values for our local hiring, and I hope that folks, especially if you participated in the first community workshop or on the advisory council, I hope that these values are reflective of the things and the issues and the concerns that folks are bringing up. And I think I'm hopeful that these values clearly share kind of where we stand as a development team in our commitments to local hire during this process. So, I'm going to turn it over to Anila.
Okay. It still says I'm disabled from sharing. Let me see again. Still says I'm disabled. Not yet.
Can you try making her a co-host?
It doesn't give me that option when I click on the three dots because I think she's already a co-host.
Yeah, it's not giving me that option either.
Actually, Lewis, can you see, because I see that you're identified as the host. Can you click on those three dots beside Laura and see if it gives the option to make her a co-host? Maybe that'll help.
Okay, I did.
All right. Looks like you did.
Great. Thank you, Lewis. Can you make
Thank
sure
you.
that that's the status for Claudia and Alejandro as well, please?
All right. Good evening, I guess it is. Again, everyone, it's good to be on the call with you again in the meeting. And things are moving along and we're excited and building up a lot of momentum for our project and ready to, kind of get things underway. We've had some fundraising success in the last couple of weeks and ready to try to start closing in October with the sources of financing. Again, I'm Laura Bell. I'm with XED, and we're part of the SEED Foundation team, and SEED is out of Washington, D.C. So I'm the on the ground person for part of this, and Anita is here as well. So I thought I would just talk about quickly, just because I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this tonight, because we're not quite there yet. We're going to do what's more immediate. But our hiring overview for operations, as I talked about in the last couple of sessions, is 92 jobs at capacity. We start with 30 in year one, and when we reach capacity of our 400 students in year 4, we will have 92 employees. And the recruitment of that is going to start as soon as we get underway with construction. The first position that will be hired will be the head of school, and we will begin our recruitment efforts for that individual, again, as soon as we start construction, and want the head of school to start in July of 2021, so that they're on board a year before we open the school in 2022. And then the next position that will be hired will be the Director of Admissions and Student Services, because that will be the next important piece to begin recruiting the students for the school. So that will be the second position. And then in addition to the 92 jobs at capacity, we also like to lift up that in addition to those jobs, we will actually have 3 third-party vendors, which we project will create another 10 full-time employment jobs. And those vendors will be for our food service, security, and maintenance. And we've heard you, and no, we're not going to have armed security, but we will have security on campus, and we do want a local vendor for that, as well as the other third-party vendors that I've talked about. So next is the Seed LA Construction, our hiring overview and goals. And so we estimate that there'll be approximately 150 construction jobs. And as Angela has mentioned, we are bound by a project labor agreement on this project, which requires 40% local and targeted hiring goals, 25% apprentices, and 10% disadvantaged and at-risk individuals. So next I'm going to talk a little bit about our timeline of where we are on this. So the utility work is going to start by the end of the month. We did have the pre-construction meeting with the utility vendor this Monday, and so they're now mobilizing to start the work at the end of September. Now, I should make it clear that the utility work we're talking about is most of being done by the utility companies' workforces, DWP, Spectrum, AT&T. They have folks that, you know, do this utility work, and so those are the people that are going to do most of that work. And there's one contractor that you can select among from DWP to do some of that upfront work before DWP comes in. And the group that was on their list that we ended up with was ILB. So they'll be starting at the end of September. So subcontractor, I think I talked a little bit last time about the subcontractor informational session that we held on September 9th. And we had about 40 people attend that. And we also sent some information to folks that were not able to attend it after the session. And so the bids are due to Bernard's Construction on October 9th. And so that's when the bids are due, and that will enable them to finish finalizing the price that they'll give us for this. And then we plan to have a construction agreement with Bernard's in November of this year, start construction in, and I can't see because I'm, okay, start construction in December of 2020. And so the construction in December of 2020 will be slow, and it will be ramping up. And so subcontracting agreements and hiring will ramp up between December 2020 and March 2021. And actually it's more like May. It'll be all through the project that the contractor will be bringing on subcontractors for various components of the job. So it won't be like everybody will be hired in December and it'll be all over. Most people will probably hire closer to the beginning of, or not the beginning, but the first 3 months of 2021. And so what I wanted to just show you briefly is just our schedule of subcontracting and materials buyout schedule, so that you see in December. So there are 3 subcontractors that are already on board because we hired them as part of our design build team in order to manage our construction costs and not have a December surprise, if you will, so that we know that the costs that we're designing designing to is what we can afford to build. So the electrical and low voltage, fire, HVAC, and plumbing subcontractors have already been engaged with us and Bernard's. And so they'll be the first ones that once we sign a contract with Bernard's, then Bernard's will be able to sign a contract with them. And then you can see the list of other trades and products that we, and when we plan to bring those trades and products on for the project. And so as these subcontractors come on, then they will begin to do their work to engage and hire workers to work at the site. So this is through February, and then I have another slide. Oops, I think I went backwards, sorry. And then you'll see kind of here. So this is not an exclusive list. This was some of the bigger ticket items that we've been talking to the contractor about. And so this, again, goes through May. It goes beyond that because we're not going to finish construction. Although they're buying out some of these supplies and materials, they still won't come into play until the end of 2021, beginning of 2022, because that's when you'll be doing some of that work, but they will, you know, lock in the prices earlier and queue things up for that. So the other thing that I just wanted, so that folks kind of get a picture of kind of how the hiring goes and who, you know, we're working with. So again, it's the Seed School of Los Angeles County, which is the owner, or our affiliate, which is called Seed LA Facilities LLC. And we have contracted with Abode Communities, which is serving as our project manager and architect. And then Abode is working with Bernard's and overseeing the work that the contractor is doing and working with them on the pricing and the bidding and overseeing that part of the work. And then Bernard's will hire you know, the subcontractors. And again, this is a PLA job, so we are required to hire folks that are affiliated with the unions, and there are different rules that we have to abide by with regards to that. But again, I think you saw on the slide, there are opportunities for apprenticeships that enable you to get into that union process. And we'll talk a little bit more about that later. And so to help us with our contracting and hiring and meeting our local goal requirements, Bernard's has engaged PDA, a jobs coordinator, which has been in the business for a long time. And so they will help us. So they'll help both the contractor, the subcontractor, and the workers to kind of connect with each other to ensure we meet our goals. And so you'll see the workers are under the subcontractor, but PDA plays kind of a brokering role with several groups, and they will work with local training and resource organizations. And I have a slide later that shows you some of the local training and resource organizations that they've worked with and plan to work with going forward. What I thought might be helpful a little bit is to talk a little bit about how PDA plans to work with the community and get the word out and provide opportunities and resources so that local residents can get hired for some of these jobs. And so, you know, wherever the advertisement occur, you know, it will occur in the local newspapers, direct contact with organizations that they've worked with before, and new ones that we've sent them that we've engaged with since we've been in this process. And so, I don't know, a number of you know they have been involved with work with the airport, so they have experience with connecting with local organizations to get them involved and their residents involved in the employment opportunities. And so if you're wondering, like, so how do I get hooked up with the folks that have these jobs and make myself available as an employee? PDA plans to create a video that will be available so that you understand what the process is and what you need to do to get affiliated with subcontractors that will be selected to work on this job. And then in terms of job fairs and informational sessions, you can see on the screen that the first one will be held in December. And right now, we're still in a virtual mode, and so we'll still be doing virtual, probably is what we've been talked about lately, unless we're given authorization to do some outdoor, in outdoor space. They won't be any closed halls like in the past, but we know the weather will still be nice, we think, in December, and will allow us to do something that's socially distanced and outdoors, but we will also have virtual sessions as well. And then also, so this is both for your information and also so that you can give us feedback if any of these groups that PDA is working with now, has worked with in the past, plans to work with for this project. These are the groups that they've worked for, but if there are groups on here where you say this still isn't hitting the people we want to hit, and we would also, recommend, encourage that they also work with these other entities, then we more than welcome that feedback for you. And then again, the question about training, accessibility, and know to go to jobs with the site. You can see that they have established, the union has, not PDA, but they can hook you up with it. The multi-craft core curriculum, and if you want more information about that and how to queue up and be ready for some of these jobs, then you should let either myself or the folks at PDA know, and they can kind of provide you with the right referral information. Next. And then this again talks about what specific support PDA will provide to interested workers. And again, they will, do screening, coordinate job interviews, tell you where to go if there are opportunities for training to get connected with this job. So they kind of are the broker in between all of these pieces. And then just the last thing that I wanted to say is that the PLA does require that union members will be hired, and so there will be, again, PDA will play that role to try to help interested parties to the extent that they can, because some of you, as you know, some of these jobs require years and years of training before you're actually in the union, if you will. But again, that's why we have the apprenticeship opportunities and the requirement that we do at least 25% of that, so that we can bring in a new cadre of individuals who are willing and ready to work. And I would just say, just as kind of as my closing and just some of what I've been learning as I've been out in the field, is that even though there's a lot going on with the pandemic, that construction has continued, and so some contractors are experiencing a shortage of workers, and so there just are opportunities for more people to become involved again. Construction was an essential field as we were in the pandemic shutdown. So most people that, already, were in the union, have the skills, are working. And so they do need to increase, because sometimes I've heard that as different job sites have gone to look for workers, it's been a little challenging to find enough people that are ready and trained. So just want to encourage folks to do that. And that is all I got, except for to answer any questions people may have.
Thank you, Nilora. And I wonder if while we start to field some questions, if you can go back to the slide that had the breakdown of the percent to be hired among different groups. Can you go back to that slide, please?
Okay, let me get back to that.
Thank you. So we have a lot of questions that are floating in the chat and Q&A boxes. Before I turn it over to, I think, Louis to start us off with what's in the Q&A, and then to Lisa for what's in the chat box. We do have a hand up, and so I'm just gonna open the line for Elise. And Elise, can you try talking, see if we can hear you?
Sure. Can you
Oh,
hear?
great. Wonderful. Go ahead.
Okay. So I have a few questions. One, you all mentioned local hire requirements, and I am interested in knowing what is the source of those local hire requirements, and what are the specific requirements quantified? I'm assuming that you might be referring to the Bureau of Contract Administration, but I'm not sure, so I like that. And then also, to someone else in the chat's point, to kind of piggyback on that, I believe it's Brad Carson. He asked about the breakdown of numbers, and I'm interested in that too. I'm interested in the pro forma, and I would like to know if you all have a pro forma that you can provide with the breakdown. So what are the short-term versus long-term jobs? What's the number of those jobs? What are the specific positions and titles? What's the budgeted pay for each of the category and positions that you have available? And can we have access to that pro forma for the project? In addition, in terms of your partnerships, I did see that list, and there are some organizations that I think should be added to that list. That the list that you have there is not, to be honest, is not really local. I saw Inglewood on there, which is adjacent, and that's great, but that's not really our neighborhood, our community. And so there are several other organizations that I would like to recommend. And in terms of your pre-apprenticeship programs, I do wonder if you have any partnerships or reached out to some of the local community colleges in order to find out from them if they have any students or if they have any pre-apprenticeship individuals who are available for this. And then in terms of your local hire in general, your initiatives in general, is there some sort of governing or oversight board that will be responsible for, just making sure that these goals are actually met and tracking these goals? And if not, I would definitely like to recommend some sort of local hire oversight committee. I am the chair of the Planning, Land Use, and Management Committee for the Southwest Neighborhood Council. And so I think that at least some of the members of the Plum Committee should have representation on this oversight committee. If you don't already have one, then there should be one. And if you do, I think that neighborhood council members should be represented there. I think that is all.
Okay, you have a lot of questions, Elise. We really appreciate them. I think some of those questions are also questions that were coming up in the chat box. I'm gonna turn it over to Nilura, but I wanna just share a couple things. So I think you're asking questions about, it sounds like you're asking questions about both developments. And so Nilura is gonna be able to answer what she can answer for the seed side of the development. And then maybe Alejandro and Claudia may actually be addressing some of your questions in their presentation when they talk about the mixed-use development side. And then just on the oversight piece, we do have the Vermont Manchester Advisory Council, and we do have representatives from both neighborhood councils who will be from both of the neighborhood councils in the area. And so it has been our intent that the council would actually be able to see, would be, kind of keeping abreast of and being able to be that accountability body for the community accountability body for us to meet the different metrics around local hire. So there is a body in place. It is also still on, we're still getting that. It's still pretty early on the mixed use side of it, but what we can do with I guess one of the questions that we'll have to pose with the council is if there is a desire to have a separate committee or if they want to kind of have that all together. So we'll make sure that that's a follow-up question with the council. Thank you for that. So I'm going to turn it over to Nilura to answer what she can answer, and then the Alejandro and Claudia may be answering your questions within their presentation.
Okay, thank you. And thank you for those questions. So the agreement that we have and what we're bound by is we are getting funding from the LA County and Metro for our project. And so those agreements have come with a project labor agreement from Metro. And you see before you the numbers for the percentages for local hire, apprentices, and disadvantaged. So those are the numbers that we are the goals that we're supposed to meet for those particular projects. Now, we also have a county local and targeted worker agreement, but the reason I'm showing the Metro one is because in our agreement it says that we had to abide by the one which was the most restrictive and had higher numbers, which is fine with us because I think the county's local hiring, local and targeted hiring was 30%. So we're going to be going with the Metro one. And then in terms of oversight, so Metro will be part of our oversight when we take on their project labor agreement. And I've had conversations with Michael, and I don't know if he's still in the session over the last couple of weeks about, getting with him so that we can talk about how the monitoring oversight of our compliance with the PLA will work. So Metro, in addition to the committee that the community wants to form, Metro will also be helping us with the coordination, not with coordination, but with the oversight and compliance of these requirements. And then I think, you got, thank
Yeah,
you,
I'm
Michael.
still here, Michael Flores, and just kind of to touch base on, to add some specifics on what Nilura had said. The seed project, which is the actual school, will be subject to Metro's project labor agreement. In addition to that, they are also bound by the LA County local hire provision. But what the agreement actually specify that in terms of any conflict between the two, Metro's project labor agreement will be the one to follow. Just a point of clarification, in terms of the requirement that is actually slated on Metro's project labor agreement, it's actually 40% local and targeted hiring. It's 20% apprentices. It's not actually 25.
Oh, okay. I don't know. Maybe I got that. Sorry.
No, not. Just point of clarification for the general public. The fact that we have to abide by the state requirement as far as what is allowable in terms of percentages that can be utilized by apprentices, and then 10% disadvantaged workers. One thing that I also wanted to convey, Metro's project labor agreement do have certain processes in terms of administration and monitoring performance from the general contractor standpoint. At the end of the project, in the event that any one of these particular three workforce provision are not attained or met, there are liquidated damages that is assessed at the back end of the project in the event that these numbers are not attained. Those are all slated on Metro's project labor agreement. In addition to it, I just wanted to really point it out here that expectation is something that has to be really be looked at. If you guys could see, based on the estimate that had been given, it's 150 construction jobs. So theoretically speaking, we will monitor our project labor agreement performance based on the number of hours, not by body or manpower. So that's something that have to be really be looked at and also be able to kind of envision in terms of the number of positions, and then thinking about in this perspective that apprentices are only allowed to be able to perform 20% of the actual construction work. So therefore, what I'm trying to get into here is in terms of local hire expectation, the pipeline of opportunities might not be as not robust, but as plentiful as everyone else might be expecting. And I just really wanted to point that out to the audience that we have here, because in terms of 150 construction jobs, given that based on that statistics or number, we're looking about no more than 40%, it's no more than 30 particulars that's really coming from the targeted area or local hire area that we're looking for. and the fact that individuals would have to be a mix of journeyman levels and apprentices because this work is subject to prevailing wage. So I hope I was able to touch base on some of the questions that Irene had earlier in regards to how we're going to administer the local hire component on here. The fact that metros currently have a project labor agreement on its current construction contract, and we are pretty much transparent into the community in terms of making sure that the community are well versed and well informed of all of our project performance. And this specific project would also be included into that information, and that all of those information could be found on our metro.net/PLA, detailing each project's performance under subject to PLA. That will include the seed project in the future. Sorry, Nanura, I'm just turning it back to you.
Thank you very much for those clarifications, Michael. And I think I answered everything, Angela, but please let me know if I missed one of the questions.
Oh, sorry. Sure. Actually, I think, can we go to questions in the Q&A that were submitted in the Q&A box? Louis?
Will local hirings be allowed into the unions?
Yes, there's a process for that, but yes, and I think that part of it starts with the apprentices. Oops,
Okay.
sorry.
Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
Does the local hire requirement apply to all hires or just hires only?
I'm sorry, local hires, or it applies to all hires. And I think Michael clarified that it also refers to number of hours as well, not just number of jobs, but number of hours.
Okay, are you contacting our schools regarding available jobs?
Contacting who? I'm sorry.
Are you contacting our local schools regarding available jobs?
Oh, I think their question came up about the local colleges who have apprenticeship programs. Yes, I think that's part of the strategy.
Okay, those are all the questions in the Q&A box.
Thank you. Lisa, can we hand it over to you? Are there other questions that Neelora can respond to in the chat box?
Yeah, I have a few questions here. I'm having a few technical difficulties, but doing my best to keep up. Here's one that just came through about LA Metro has a disparity study. Is SEED going to follow that too?
I'm going to have to pass on that because I don't know what that is. So I can't say we're going to follow it if I don't know exactly what you're talking about. I'm sorry.
Okay, maybe we can get some clarification here from Brad.
We've noted, hi, this is Maria with LA Metro. I've noted that. I don't have the information to share, but we'll circle back with Louis so that he can share that information with everyone on the call.
Okay, thank you. There's a question for Metro. What is your experience in making this center? Are you basing this on any other models?
Yeah, I've answered that in the chat. There's another question just for reference about second chance and justice involved individuals.
Right.
And we are actually looking into that. We've stood up a team and are looking at how we can make that an opportunity as well. So
great. Here's one for Nalira. When you say local hire, a local vendor for security and a third-party vendor, what is the need for both? Will the third-party vendor agreement be bound to the same agreement that you put forth as far as not being armed?
Yes, I answered. My third-party agreement is a local vendor too. I just meant that it wasn't like a direct employee of SEED. So it's just a third party, not SEED. So SEED's not going to do the service. It's going to hire another party to do it. And we want that other party to be local. So local and third party are somewhat interchangeable, but they don't have to be, but we want them to be. We want the third party vendor to be someone local.
Have there been any assessments of the neighborhood schools? We value education, but not at the cost of property.
I couldn't hear you. Could you guys hear?
Have there been any assessments of the neighborhood schools? We value education, but not at the cost of property. Can you not hear me?
Not clearly.
Okay. Have there been any assessments regarding in the neighborhood regarding the schools? They value the education, but not at the cost of their property.
They value, I don't think I understand the question. Like we've assessed some schools in terms of performance and what we thought that SEED would bring in terms of outcomes for students that were not necessarily being achieved by some of the local schools. So we think that SEED achieves a higher overall full graduation rate, number one, and an overall higher percentage of students who go on and go to college, and a higher percent of students who go to their schools that finish college when you compare them to other schools that don't have the intensity of services that SEED provides. But somehow I'm missing the connection between the property and the assessment. So I need more clarification on the question, or perhaps the person can leave their name in the chat and I could follow up, please.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, I typed out the question there in the chat. So maybe they could expand on the question or put it in the Q&A where they could give more information. Then are the majority of the jobs being created full-time and part-time and permanent?
The majority of the jobs are, all 92 of the jobs are permanent. There's one job in the beginning. There's a couple of part-time jobs because we won't have a full enrollment, and so we won't need as many. So I think there will be like 1.5 administrative clerk staffs, a full-time one in the school part and a part-time one in the boarding part. So those are like 50% positions in the beginning, but when you get to the end, they're all 100% or full-time employment opportunities, FTEs, 100% FTEs.
Does the local hire requirement apply to all hires or new hires only?
Oh, that was a repeat question. That question was also in the Q&A box,
Okay.
and that was at all hires.
All right. I'm sure that there are more. I'm going to be going over my list and we can.
Thank you. I think.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Lisa. I think one of the questions that was coming up, I think it was both in the chat box and the Q&A, but a little bit later on, was just whether it would be possible to post the list of different types of positions and the salary range. Is that something that we can post, Nulura, on the website?
I have to confer with some other folks about that. I don't want to answer that off the cuff.
Great. So let's put that as a follow-up item, since that's come up a couple of times, of just the types of positions to expect. And maybe
I mean, I know, can I say, for the school part of it, we do have Public Information, Public Records Act, and anybody can see, what the salaries are of the staff at the schools. I'm not sure that same absolute requirement is required for, I mean, I know it isn't for the construction jobs. That's why I paused on that one. But I know for the school, whatever we're be paying, the head of school, the teachers, the IT person, HR person, those, the resident advisors, those salaries are public information. So.
Thank you for that.
Chat box. I mean, in the Q&A box.
I'm sorry, Louis, could you repeat that, please?
I have two questions in the Q&A box.
Okay.
Is there any specific programs or initiatives in terms of outreach specifically to prospective employees who have a history with the penal system for criminal records?
Yes, I think that PDA does have some relationships with some organizations that work specifically with those individuals. And so we will be reaching out to them in this. And again, part of this 10% disadvantaged and at risk number, that speaks to people that fall into the category that you're mentioned. That's kind of included in the definition.
Okay. And the second question, how do we get our participants in the Work Source Center with the MC3 and are part of the local hire list of this construction project?
We are developing, I think that's part of what we're doing with this group is developing a online platform that people can register that interest to us and make us known. But also I'm hearing you and will certainly add you to the list of organizations that we ask PDA to outreach to, in addition to the ones that they already work with.
And one last question, where can that public information be accessed?
It's on PDA is developing some of it now, and we'll post it on their site. We'll post it on, the Vermont Manchester site as well, and we'll post it on the Seed LA site.
Great.
Okay.
Thank you so much, Neil Laura.
Sure.
There are so many great questions. I think, I just want to reiterate that we are going to be going through any questions that we can't answer today. We will be following up. We are posting FAQs, and so all the responses from today are also being put into an FAQ that folks can review later. And then I just want to encourage folks, if you do have recommendations for other organizations that should be on that list, on that outreach list, please type them into the box and we'll add them to our list to outreach to as well. So I want to transition us over to Alejandro Martinez and Claudia Cardenas, who are going to be sharing with us what local hire, kind of what to expect on the mixed use development side of things. So Claudia and Alejandro, take it away.
Claudia, you're on mute.
Ooh, Claudia, you're on mute. You're still on mute.
There you go.
That's good.
Oh, I think she may have.
Okay. Am I sharing the wrong screen?
We can see it.
We can see it.
Can you see the presentation? Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Awesome. Hello, everyone. My name is Claudia Cardenas, and I am the Director of Community Outreach for Primestor Development. And we are presenting for the mixed use. Alejandro Martinez will be presenting as well. He is the Chief Real Estate Officer for CRCD. For the mixed use component of this project, the development team is made up of Bridge Housing, Coalition for Responsible Community Development, and Prime Store. We are here as facilitators in order to achieve the goals and vision and needs of the community for this project, and for the programmatic requirements that were set forth by the county in their request for proposal that was issued in 2018. Tonight, we wanted to provide you an update of where we stand with the project, and we'd like to focus on the local hire and where that stands. So, let's see.
So, good evening, everyone. My name is Alejandro Martinez. I'm the Chief Real Estate Officer at CRCD. I want to, first of all, thank everyone for taking the time to be here. I know all of us have families. All of us here haven't eaten dinner. We're hungry. We're thirsty. We've been sitting around, many of us, all day or on our feet all day. So I understand the time, and I just want to thank everyone for being here and for participating. I can't stress enough that this project is the most important project for all three developers, for Bridge, for Primestone, and for CRCD. It is the most important, not because just of the size, the sheer number of the number in terms of square footage or the number of units. It's the most important because of the community, the complexity of the site itself, what we're trying to achieve, the history of the site. And I want to stress that the history of the site and the many years of promises and expectations that folks have had. So I want to be sensitive to that and highlight that this is something that we take dear. And we are excited to be a part of this process, this project, and we're excited to hear all of your comments and concerns. So to give an overview of our portion of the development, I'll call it the development, it includes 50,000 square feet of retail on the ground floor. On the second floor above the retail, we will have a 15,000 square foot space for Metro to host their job training and innovation center. That's going to be on the second floor, right above the entrance to the retail space. We are cognizant that we want to make sure that the public plaza space along Vermont is well designed, but it provides and meets the expectations for not only the resident stakeholders, but of all of the uses. We're going to have the Seed School to one side, the training center above. Our plan and goal is to activate the ground floor plaza area with restaurants, shops, housing above, people coming in and out off the buses. And so it's going to be a very dynamic space. So we want to make sure that the experience that people have when they walk into that plaza is a memorable experience. The development will include a total of 180 units of affordable housing. And technically it's going to be split up into two different types of housing, one for seniors and one for family, but in total that's 180 units. We have parking included in the development, parking to accommodate the needs of the various uses associated with the plaza and Metro and the retail spaces, but also parking to accommodate the needs of the residents in the building and their guests. So we have that component. And the other portion that's not obvious sometimes is that the site plan has to be cohesive. It has to take into consideration not just of our development, I keep calling it our development, but also of the school. Not only is it next to us, it's essentially a vital portion, a part of the experience that people are going to have when the public, they walk up, they drive by, they go shopping. They're not going to differentiate, hey, that's the school, or hey, this is the affordable housing development or a project. They're going to walk, they're going to drive by, and they're going to see a development. So we want to make sure that there's a lot of cohesion there. That's the overall summary of the program. Claudia, would you mind going to the next page?
So next, we're gonna go do an overview of the commitments as it relates to local hire. So local hire is gonna be broken down into two different phases. The first phase will be construction. Local hire opportunities will be made for local subcontractors. As Angela stated, we're gonna be focusing on local Black and Brown owned businesses. Minority business enterprises, small business enterprises, women-owned business enterprises. We'll make sure that they are participating and will focus on those types of small-owned businesses and local-owned businesses. As well as union participation. As it has been mentioned, this project will be subject to a PLA, so there will be union participation. And then there will also be local hire and training and construction for local residents that are interested in entering the construction field. The second phase will be the operations phase. So for that, we'll be doing local hire and training also for the permanent jobs, and that will be focused on the local residents, and they'd be given priority. And by local residents, we're not limiting it to a specific type of person. There will be opportunities for people that, as was mentioned previously, that are in the reentry population, as well as other disadvantaged groups. So there will be opportunity for everybody that is a local resident in the area. As well as the actual phases of the project, we do have some general commitments, and that is that the local, we actually don't have our local hire minimum requirements in place. They are still a work in progress, and once we know what those are, we will make it known to the community. But our goal is to meaningfully and materially do better than what is required. And that is something that we have committed to, not only for this project, but it's something that we commit to along the board for all of our projects. We have had a very successful program of local hire for our most recent project in Watts, where we were able to achieve a 78% local hire for that project. So we are mindful that these are communities that are going to be counting on these jobs to be able to improve their quality of life, and we very much like to be a part of that, and we're grateful that you're allowing us to be a part of that. In addition, we commit to providing a safe working environment and honesty and doing the very best that we can. We plan to be as transparent as possible. We will be accessible to the community for any questions, comments, ideas. So anything that you would like to bring up to our attention, we're here, we're listening. So with that, I'll move on to the next slide.
Okay, so what we wanted to give folks with this slide is just an overview of where we started from, where we're at today, and when we expect the construction to begin. We listed this in terms of quarters just because the dates are not yet fixed. There's what I call a dance that we have to do prior to starting construction, and that determines when we start construction. We coordinate with the city, the county, the city attorney, the county attorney, all of our lenders. We many times have a short window to begin. So we apply for our financing, we get our financing. We have to make sure that our architectural drawings and our engineering plans are meeting those benchmarks so that we can not only apply, but get to the point where we can plan for the construction start. So you see it in quarters because sometimes there's a little bit of wiggle room, and we don't know. Today, we won't know exactly when we start. So we started this process the fourth quarter of 2018. We are signed the ground lease in the third quarter of this year. Alexis, if you can confirm that. I can't. Okay, there you go. We expect to begin construction in the third quarter of 2021 next year. So we're thinking this time next year, we will have all of our financing in place. This time next year, we will be putting pressure with our architects to get our plans approved from Building and Safety, and those plans will include the retail, the parking, and both phases of the affordable housing development. So all that will be happening this time next year. We'll look at the schedule and figure out by when can we close, when are we getting our building permits. It's a very chaotic time, but the good thing is once our last financing commitments are in place, and once we know when our architects expect to secure our building permits, then we can get to the point where we will work on finalizing a date, and so that we can close on our financing and begin to plan for a construction start.
And next we have a preliminary sequencing schedule. This is based on the current schedule that Alejandro just went over. As he stated, there are a lot of moving pieces, and we do anticipate that we will be able to start construction third quarter of 2021. But if anything changes, then these dates that we're sharing with you today will be moving along with the actual construction commencement. This is a preliminary schedule. It goes over the design phase, which is, we're currently in that design phase. We don't expect to have construction documents until the first quarter of 2021, and then also enter into the plan check permit phase as well. Bidding and contracting, this is of importance to any local subcontractors. We anticipate that we will start our bidding second quarter of 2021. And then for the construction phase, this is the anticipated sequencing with the initial submittals and mobilization, the third quarter of 2021. So that's groundbreaking. Then excavation, below grade structure commencing the fourth quarter of 2021, running through the end of the first quarter in 2022. Next, we have structure concrete to podium deck, which would be the second quarter of 2022. Structure framing would start also second quarter of 2022 and run through the fourth quarter of 2022. Roofing facade dry-in, fourth quarter of 2022. Finishes would commence right around the end of 2022 and beginning of 2023. Testing and inspections right around the second quarter of 2021 with an anticipated completion in third quarter of 2023. And we have some preliminary information on the type of jobs that would be available by construction phase. So these are the job opportunities that we anticipate will be available. General would be superintendents, project engineers, foremen, apprentices, journeymen, laborers, and security. For the excavation and below grade structure, excavation, grading, shoring, concrete and underground utilities, structure concrete to podium deck, concrete, structure framing, steel, framing, mechanical, electrical, and plumbing, roofing, facade dry-in, roofing, waterproofing, doors and windows, and stucco, and then finishes, drywall, painting, carpentry, mechanical, electrical, plumbing, and landscaping. And so depending on the type of subcontractor, if they happen to be union members, then some of these trades would include apprentices and the opportunity to join some of the unions for those trades. Sorry.
We went over both schedules to highlight the time that we're in right now, to give a little bit of history of where we started, but also to give as much information in terms of when we expect the construction start, where we're at in the design, where we'll be with the plan check process, and more importantly, when we're starting construction. And then on top of that, the length of construction. That's important because some trades have, when we have some trades, we will have more workers. We may have more laborers. When we start framing, plumbing, and electrical, we get many more workers on site than when we just do the site work and grading, for example. So we thought that was important to give us the public a sense of the overall schedule, but when we execute our local hire plan of what areas we'll be targeting. And again, what we wanted to get across is that although the local hire goals are not finalized, whatever they are, our commitment is to exceed that. And that's just because that's who we are. It's something that we take seriously because historically, the folks that are affected by these jobs are our family members, our brothers, our sisters, our cousins, our parents, our neighbors. And these are well-paying jobs. On the affordable housing developments, we're required to pay prevailing wages. And to give everyone an example of how important that is, on my very first job, one of my laborers came up to me his second week on the job. And he pulled me to the side because he was embarrassed. He was embarrassed that we overpaid him. This is our labor. And I pulled him to the side and I said, Híjole, I said, we didn't overpay you. This is a prevailing wage job. This is in 2002. I think we were paying him $35 an hour in 2002 as a laborer. But he was used to getting hired at minimum wage. So the smile on his face was just overwhelming because we didn't pay him by accident. I love that he felt that he needed to talk to me to rectify a problem, but that experience has never left me. These jobs, in many times, will allow some of our laborers, some of our local folks to make the most amount of money that they've made in that trade all year long. So that's really important to us. And in terms of the partnership we have with Bridge and with Prime Store, I'm proud and I'm pleased to say that they have exceeded their goals on their projects. So when we have these conversations as a team, we're all on the same page. We want to do better. And it's one thing to have an agreement with minimums, but it's another thing to be able to look each other in the eye and look all of you and to say in good faith that we've exceeded those. So we want to make sure that these conversations continue. This is not this will not be our first conversation and our only conversation. We will have many more conversations. We commit to being as transparent as possible. And again, I want to thank all of you for participating, for posting the questions. And I just want to say from the bottom of my heart, we take the seriousness of what we're embarking to our hearts. This is the most important project for all of us. So with that, I want to open up to questions.
Great. Can we start with some questions from the Q&A box? So we'll start with Louis.
Okay. What happened to those individuals selected for the Bridge to Jobs program and due to COVID-19, everything froze?
I'm not aware of the Bridge to Jobs program. Prime Store, Nalura or Claudia, can anyone talk about that?
I've never heard of that.
I'm not aware of it.
That project, yes.
Okay. Next question. Will local community members be allowed to own business or retail stores, and will it be low interest loans available so that they're able to afford a chance for ownership before outsiders?
Why don't I go ahead and take that? My name's Leandro. I work with Claudia and the team over at Prime Store. So it's extremely important that we do have local entrepreneur participation. we would think that this project is a total failure if we don't. Some of the tools that we have towards offering assistance to local entrepreneurs is basically a whole menu of things that we want to apply to effectively hold hands with entrepreneurs to make it happen. A part of it is actually direct monetary assistance through something we call tenant improvement allowance dollars. So our pro forma has put aside a certain amount of money simply to offer capital for local businesses to be able to start up and operate their business. On top of that, we're going to be working with Metro as well as the County Development Authority to try to provide some grants for tenant improvements for capital. And then on top of that, we also are pretty good at working with local entrepreneurs at holding their hand through access to capital workshops and making sure that they can go through the SBA process if additional capital is required beyond the amounts we've already set forward. From the very beginning of the project, we have always stated that we really need local Black and brown ownership and entrepreneurship investment in this project. That's what will make this project a true success. And I sure hope I wasn't on mute.
We heard you.
Next question. What public funds or programs will you be applying to for the mixed use?
I'll answer that as well. Hi, Heidi, excuse me. Good to talk to you again. Heidi is a member of our Community Advisory Council. I replied in the chat box that a part of the sources and uses for this project, this is a very large project. And as a result, it has an incredible amount of subsidies and programs that we're working with a ton of partners. The primary partner is the County of Los Angeles. They are, of course, going to be our landlord and will own the land under the project. And they are providing the largest form of subsidy. Other forms of subsidy and funding for the project is coming through Section 108 loans from the EDA for infrastructure dollars. There is also a component of private investment equity that we have to raise in order to actually invest private capital into the property. We are also going to be applying for a significant allocation of new markets tax credits to apply to the project. And then on the tenant improvement side, we're going to be applying to the SBA and other capital sources to see what dollars we can funnel to local entrepreneur businesses. So that's just for the mixed use commercial side. The housing component has an incredible array of funding sources that frankly, Alexis and Alejandro would be more well-versed in talking about. So I won't pretend to understand all of their funding sources.
So hi, this is Alexis Lane with Bridge Housing. In terms of the funding sources for the residential pieces, there's two separate funding stacks for the senior portion and the family side. There's a mixture of state and federal tax credits. There's county funds through the different housing programs through the county, the city, and the state. So we have LACDA NOFA money, we have Triple H money from the city of LA, we have ASIC dollars, which is a Affordable Housing Sustainable Communities program through the state. There's IIG, which is infill infrastructure grant dollars. We applied for TOD, which is transit-oriented development dollars. Yesterday, we applied for MHP, which is a multifamily housing program, and those combination of sources are gathering together, plus just general mortgage on the land or on the housing units to help pay for the housing components of the project.
So Alexis, that was exhausting, but I want to just highlight that how we build housing in the country and how we build affordable housing is a very inefficient process. When I communicate to my family and my friends what it is that we do, I have to, sometimes let them know that there are times where we have 7 to 9 funding sources that we have to cobble together to build one project. So when people ask or tell us, why haven't you started? Well, how the system is set up for affordable housing development is very complex. It's not easy. Everybody understands the need, but how you approach it and how you get to a point where you can secure all your financing is very cumbersome. It's very frustrating, exhausting, and it takes a lot of time. So I was hearing Alexis just recap our own financing, and I was getting tired. So I can just imagine how other folks feel.
Yes, thank you, Alejandro, for adding that that detail as well. There are lots of sources. It is a process.
Yeah.
Okay, next question. Before we leave, can you let us know where we can access this meeting at a later time and where we can find and access C's meeting from June?
This is neat, Laura. I can send you the link from the meeting from June.
Thanks, Laura. And let's make sure that we can also post materials on the VM website as well. So we'll make sure that happens.
I think that's all the questions in the Q&A box.
Great.
I'm sorry, do you think, Louis, we could answer Miss Isabel's question? She asked a really important one, which is how are we reaching out to the community about this project?
Question.
Angela, do you want to take that?
Sure. I'm seeing. Is it the question in the Q&A box of are you contacting our local schools regarding available jobs, or just overall?
I think it's in the chat. It's in it's the list in the chat. Yeah.
I'm looking at the wrong.
And it was an overall question.
Okay.
If I read it right.
So and so the question, I'm sorry, just because I didn't actually see it in the chat. So the question is, how are we reaching out to the community about the project, right?
Yes, that's the question.
Great. Okay, wonderful. So so to answer that question, we're doing work like this. These community workshops are one way that we're reaching out to the community and having targeted conversations about these specific topics. We have the Vermont Manchester Community Advisory Council as well. That's a council that is meeting on a quarterly basis to discuss and give input to inform different decisions that will be made specific to the project. And then we've been having different meetings with different groups as well. But I think it all, a lot of the kind of pre-work to led up to what we're doing today. So we made sure to reach out to groups like Community Coalition, for example, to help us think through and recruit members for the Advisory Council, for example. South Central by South Central has been a really great resource and has been wonderful in their participation. I see a lot of members, in the workshop today. And then, I kind of want to zero in on the, and I can kind and Laura might want to add to, add to this as it pertains to, some of the more specific work that the school has been doing. But I think we want to make sure that, throughout this process, we've been very intentional about even representation on the council, right? So making sure that the council, the advisory council has, has residents, local business owners, local groups that are doing training and workforce development, education, religious, religious organizations in the area. And then we also have representation from, CD8, from Council District 8, from SD2, Supervisorial District 2. I mentioned earlier as well that, we have seats specifically for the 2 neighborhood councils on the council. So we're doing everything that we can to kind of make sure that the word is getting out. But I think part of that is also partnering with everyone involved to get the word out. So I will also just add that we've been referring to it throughout the meeting, but we have a website set up. It's VMTPP. Did I get that right? Sorry, let me just make sure.
VMTTP.com.
VMTPP, yes, thank you, Louis, .com. And that is where all of the materials from these different workshops are. We're gonna continue to post updates on that website. And actually, this is kind of a great segue into what we wanna share next, is specific to local hire strategies. But we are also posting, and there's going to be a link on the, a feature on the website where folks can actually also sign up for different updates as they're becoming available. So we'll, blast things out on social media, etc. And then we also have a website for the Vermont Manchester Community Advisory Council as well, and that's also available for folks to take a look at what's being discussed there. I hope that answered your question. But Laura, did you want to add anything else around community outreach?
No.
Okay. So there are. So I am kind of being mindful of time. We do have, another portion of. One more component of today's workshop. I know we have some questions in the chat box as well. And so maybe what we can do in the interest of time is that we can maybe take 1 or 2 questions from the chat box, and then we should transition to talking about the local hire strategies. So we have, some time for that conversation. And just as a reminder, like any questions that we can't answer today, we will answer in an FAQ. So, make sure you keep asking those questions. If we can't answer them today, we'll add them into the FAQ. And we do also have 2 more workshops. The next one on retail and commercial space, and then the 4th one on affordable housing. And any of the questions that are raised specific to those topics, we'll aim to also address those in those workshops. So Lisa, do you want to give us maybe 1 or 2 questions from the chat box?
Okay, hello everyone. There are a few questions in there that Leandra or Claudia could probably address, which is talking about the breakdown of businesses, examples of restaurants, stores, learning centers, anything that we've done in our market research for the area. Just letting people know, if you can, in the chat, the research that's been done. And are the local hire requirements the same as SEED, and are they tied to Metro? Does anyone have an answer for that one?
I responded to that on the chat in stating that we anticipate that they will be similar to Metros and SEEDs, but they haven't actually been written yet. So we don't actually have our requirements negotiated with LACTA yet. We know that we're going to meaningfully go beyond whatever is required, but we don't formally even have an agreement yet. But we do anticipate they'll be similar.
Right. The market research and everything that was done before these presentations, are those items available anywhere for people to view? Are they going to be on the Vermont Manchester website?
No, I don't think we were posting that because, quite frankly, when it comes to, quote, market research, there is more need in the community than there is space that we're able to provide. Usually when we do what's called a void analysis, we do it when there's a significant amount of competition in the area In this case, our job is to try to lure as many quality grocers to the neighborhood as possible and local entrepreneurs. Unfortunately, programmatically, the project only has, I think, like 55,000 square feet of retail. So it really, there's much more need than there is space available. So, you know, when it comes to having to do a quote market study, one, we already, I think we've had like 6 or 7 site activation meetings with the community in which we met with them and did market studies of what kind of uses the community is interested in. We do have the feedback from that we could put on the website as a historical archive. But more than anything, our job is to speak with the highest quality grocers and then local entrepreneurs out there to include into this project. And then, I'm sorry, just in regards to the merchandising mix, our primary anchor has to be a quality fresh produce grocer. We do intend to have ideally a local owned coffee shop. And then we have space for approximately 4 either quick serve restaurants or, depending on the size, maybe 1 large white tablecloth sit down restaurant, ideally also from the community and local entrepreneurs. That would be ideal.
I just want to clarify that when Leandra says quick serve, we're not saying fast food. Those are not the same things. And so
no fast food.
No fast food, no fast food. We heard that very loud and clear, and it is also in line with our values to not have fast food on this site. And you know, the retail and commercial workshop is going to be next, so I know that there'll be a lot more robust discussion there. So I want to turn it over back to Claudia, who's going to actually share with us some of the strategies to support local hire for the development.
Hi, so we mentioned previously the website that has been created for this project, and the website address is right here at the top. It's www.vmtpp.com. This is the splash page that shows that, you know, pops up when you access the website. So this just has very general information on the project. As you scroll down, you will see that we listed the schedule for the community workshops, and we will be including the presentations that are presented for each one of these events. They will be added to the website. So right now we're working on adding the one for the first workshop on August 26th, and then we'll also add the one for today, as well as for the 2 future events. There's also an opportunity to register to the upcoming workshops if you haven't registered. Then this is just information regarding registration. There's a link to an email that was created. If you have any questions regarding the project, the email address is info@vmtpp.com. So any questions or anything that you guys would like to address and we're not having an event, feel free to send us an email and we will respond within 5 business days. Next, as you scroll down, there's the map that shows the location of the project as it relates to LA County. And then this is the section where we wanted to show you before we go live. And this is the area where you would be able to sign up for future updates on the project, as well as job opportunities. So we ask that you fill out the information with your first name, last name. Mailing address is optional. Phone number and email are required because we need to have a means of contacting you either by phone or email. And then you have the option of selecting what information you want to receive from us. So the first option would be just project updates. You just want to know where we are, as far as schedule, or, if we have an announcement to make as far as, having a tenant in place, that would be a project update. The next one is if you're interested in jobs and or training opportunities during the construction phase or for the permanent jobs. you would click that link, and when we get that information, there will actually be a representative that will call you or contact you, whether, if you provide an email address, we'll contact you and get more information as far as whether you're interested in construction jobs or permanent jobs. So to get, to have a little more direction on what you want, and be able to direct you to, training or jobs if the jobs are already open at that time. And then the last option would be for any subcontractors that are interested in submitting a bid for the project. If you click on that, a representative will get back to you within 5 business days to get more information as far as what trade you what trade you work for, and to give you more information as far as where the bidding project process is, and give you direction as to what you need to do in order to submit a bid. So this is just a disclosure that says, you're signing up to receive these emails, and you will always have the option of canceling the receipt of the emails. So that's just what this disclosure is right here. And then you just click on join the mailing list, and that will sign you up to receive information depending on the selections that you make for the email lists.
Thank you, Claudia. So we want to, so this was actually specifically an idea that that folks had from the first workshop, and that was kind of reiterated by the advisory council. Our goal here, because the timeline for when jobs and jobs for subs is still far off, it's still a year away. The idea was, can we create, the suggestion was, can we actually create a running list so that we can follow up with folks and see what their interests are, as Claudia was mentioning, but also, especially on the job side, if folks already have training and are looking for training, because that will actually help us also make connections to training resources, whether it's through one of the WorkSource centers or through one of the different nonprofits and training groups that were listed. And I think that's a growing list, and we welcome more of your recommendations for other organizations to add to that list when we're doing that outreach. So this was specifically a recommendation that came from the community, and we wanted to show it to folks first before we go live. We wanted to check with folks to see, like, if if there's any feedback about this specific platform, anything else that you guys would like to see from this platform, knowing that what we're committing to doing is doing that follow-up, asking those questions about what folks are interested in and kind of where they are, if they need training and things like that. So I just want to pause to see if folks have any questions that you want to put in the chat box or in the Q&A box as it pertains to this specific platform. We do intend, and again, we are on the mixed use side, on the mixed use development side, we are pretty ahead of the game over here. So we want to hear, we definitely want to hear from you all about what else can we do, what else you would like to see done. As Milora was mentioning earlier, some of the strategies that are going to be happening on the seed side include things like job fairs, both right now virtual, maybe in the future also some in person with some social distancing in place. Those are the kinds of things we would also do on the mixed use side. And so any other, and then partnering with different groups. So we're still assembling, that team of different groups that we'll be working with to get folks trained, to recruit, things like that. So I just want to spend, if anybody else has some recommendations. We have a question: will there be a platform for folks that need help filling out applications to get them ready to apply for these positions? We haven't actually talked about support in filling out applications. We'll take that recommendation to the team here, and I think we can try to make that happen. But we'll add that to kind of the things that we'll see if we can get done when it comes to actually applying to the different positions. That's a great recommendation. Are there other strategies that you all would find helpful? And I think the follow-up question also being, are there ways that community members can support recruitment efforts? Are there certain things that you all would want to specifically do to help with recruitment efforts? Great. Oh, so from Miss Vanessa, she'd like to see something on the site announcing workshops, banners, big signs, as it pertains to hiring. I think we can get that done. Let's add that to the recommendations of strategies. Thank you, Vanessa. Obviously, we'll be posting these things on the website, sending project updates. Earlier, we had made a commitment to do what we can to post positions and information about different positions. We'll be aiming to do that as well. Any other strategies that folks would want to see? Well, if other strategies come up, you have ideas, we have time, you know. Oh, Hyrie, did you have a recommendation? An ad. Oh, ads in the Sentinel, definitely. Yes, we will definitely do that. The Sentinel, La Opinion. We could try to get some ads in the radio. Anyone has a hookup from that? But definitely outreaching about these is going to be a high priority for us. Great. Oh, we'll ping incubators and accelerators for community businesses. I do wonder if, Stacy, can you expand on that a little bit? Or I'm gonna unmute you, Stacy. Can you, if you start talking, hopefully we can hear you. I just unmuted you. Maybe it didn't work.
So Stacy actually works in the field of economic development and has a lot of contacts in that sector. Stacy, can you hear us?
I can. Can you hear me now?
Oh, great. Yes, we can.
Okay, great. No, I actually really love the thoughts that you had around getting local businesses involved. And I know you'd already mentioned quite a bit of lists that you'd reached out to, willing to connect in the VC and accelerator space. I know there's some companies that are up and coming and local in that area that could potentially be great, local businesses. So sorry for the shorthand, meant that I'll ping you and willing to help.
Awesome. Thank you so much. We look forward to following up with you about that.
Awesome. Thank you.
Okay. Well, if anybody has any other ideas for what they'd like to see, please email us. Actually, we have an email for info on the website. I think it's info@vmtpp.com. And then Louis McNeil is also our community engagement specialist, so he's also available. He's been the person sending all the reminders around the workshops and all of that. So you can also feel free to reach out to him, and he'll funnel that information to the team. So with 5 minutes left, I don't want to belabor us here. Thank you everyone for all of the feedback today. We have Louis is actually going to close us out with some announcements. And we do have a short list here of next steps, including checking with the council for regarding a specific committee around local hire accountability, following up about the LA Metro disparity study, posting information about the positions that will be available, posting local hire outcome reports from Jordan Downs. So folks can see kind of what the outcomes were from that. And we're going to follow up with Stacy as well. So Louis, I'm going to turn it over to you to share kind of our closing announcements. Thanks, everyone.
Signing up for the website to receive updates about the project. Vermont Manchester Transit Priority Project, www.vmtpp.com. Is Lacey on the line? Because when I ask if she has any questions, if she has any info about the time capsule.
Nope, that's going to be a separate email. Thanks.
Okay, and then reminders about the workshops, October 7th, retail and commercial space, October 28th, affordable housing. And, I forgot to mention the Vermont Manchester Community Advisory Council website, which is www.vmcac.org. I can put that in the chat box.
Please. Yeah.
And that's it.
All right. Well, thank you everyone for joining our community workshop on local hire, and we hope to see you at the next workshop, which will be focused on retail and commercial spaces. Have a good evening. Bye.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everybody.